Okay, I am making a little follow-up video to the video that I did about writing captions because there is something that Spencer pointed out, which is that sometimes you just want to do captions in Premiere because After Effects just doesn't run that fast on your computer. Not everybody has the greatest computer, or sometimes you just have a huge project like this one that I purposely just picked because I know it's going to play like crap because it's huge. It's a huge project with a bunch of layers. So let's see how it plays back.
This is
29,200 pieces of candy.
Not very good. Okay, so what can we do about this? Well, it was pointed out in the comments that one thing you could do is change this from full resolution down to a quarter. Well, let me tell you, that might not actually help that much. And this is even a little confusing to me, but there are two places you can set resolution. One is here for this composition, but the thing is in After Effects, you can make multiple compositions. You can make bunches of compositions. I could have this composition, I could make 5 of them, and I can have them all set to different resolutions. I could have one set to full, one set to a quarter, one set to a third. Look over here at your preview panel, and there's another resolution. And if you hover over this one, let's see what it says. Choose preview resolution overrides current composition settings, which means it is a possibility that you have this set at a quarter, you think it should be playing back at a quarter, you should get smooth playback, but it's still trying to play at full resolution because this is set to full resolution and it's going to override. So tip number 1 of 3 tips, actually there's going to be 4 tips. There's going to be a little bonus tip at the end. First tip is when you're lowering your resolution for smoother playback, just for good measure, make sure you're setting it down here and you're bringing it down over here as well. Let's see if that helped out at all.
This is 29,200 pieces of candy. What you see here is one piece of candy for every day that the average person watching this video will live.
Okay, we are already off to a great start, but let's assume that you set this down to a quarter resolution, you set this down to a quarter resolution, and you're still getting such horrible playbacks. Screw this, I'm just gonna do my captions in Premiere, or go back to Final Cut. I always want to say Cool Edit. Every time I'm about to say Final Cut, I'm tempted to say Cool Edit, but yeah! What's the next thing I can do to get through these captions? Well, there's one thing you gotta keep in mind about captions, and that is that it doesn't really matter what's on the screen at that point. Not in a video playback sense. Like, you want to see what's going on the screen, like when you're typing out your text and stuff. But if you're at the point where you're doing captions for a video, the video's done, you've already made all your editing decisions, you've already animated your typography, you've already done your transitions. You don't really need to see what's going on the video so much. So really what's important is you can see what you're typing at a still frame point, and that you can see your waveform down here, you can see your audio, and that you can hear it and figure out where you are. To navigate that audio is so much more important at this stage than navigating the video itself. So the next 2 tips rely on that. Tip number 1, if you're scrubbing through your video and you hold down Control or Command on a Mac, it will scrub the audio as well. So you see how I'm scrubbing this? I'll hold down my Control key now and do the same thing and watch what happens.
This is 29,200 pieces of candy. What you see here is...
So if I'm needing to find a specific word, a specific section, a specific thing, if I need to find out where my next caption line will be, where a sentence starts or finishes or whatever, I can really dial in on that. No pun intended. Rob dial. I can really dial in on that by just holding down the Control key on my keyboard and scrubbing to that point. I can tell, even without playing back smooth video or having the audio showing, I can tell when he starts talking. Right there. Tip number 3. Again, we don't really need the video at this point. We just need to see our waveforms and hear them. Now, if you have a keyboard that has a number pad on it and you press the period key, not where your letters are, but the period key on your number keyboard, it's going to play back the audio only, and it's going to play back smooth every time because it's not rendering any video frames. So if I go ahead and come out to the middle of this video where it's not cached any images yet and try and hit play with my spacebar, I get this.
Happiest day of your parents' life.
But let's skip to another spot, and I'm just going to hit the period key on my number pad, and this is what's going to happen.
And hopefully a long and happy one. This is your first year, a year filled with eating and growing and slowly getting accustomed to the world around you. A great but stressful year for most.
Perfectly smooth, perfectly beautiful. So if I had none of these keyframes here, let's go ahead and delete some of these. Right now, I can be down here. I can do this blind. I can turn this video completely off. So I can't see the background. I can't see the video. I can't see the footage. I can't see the title. None of that. And I can come over here, hit the period key.
And hopefully a long and happy one.
And I know right here, and hopefully a long and happy one. Type that out, and
hopefully a long and happy one.
And happy one right here. That's where my next keyframe would be. And I can check it.
And happy one.
Long and happy one. I can jump to here.
This is your first year.
So I know that this little chunk is, this is your first year. I just typed that horribly. Then I jump here.
A year filled with eating and growing.
A year filled with eating and growing. Blah, 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 blah. Boom. And if I'm having a rough time finding something specific, I can always hold down that control key and scrub it so we can go.
A year filled with eating and growing and slowly getting.
Growing. Slowly. Boom. Starts right there.
Slowly getting accustomed to the world around you.
And it's that easy. So, quick recap of the 3 tips. Tip number 1, make sure when you set a quarter resolution here, you're setting it over here as well. Tip number 2, if you need to scrub through the audio like you can do in Premiere, simply hold down Control or Command and you can scrub through it. Tip number 3, period key on your number pad for audio only playback.
Most of those involved. To give you scale, this is your first 8.
And that should resolve any issues you're having in terms of trying to get through writing your captions and you're having crappy playback on your video. Now, I did mention there's going to be a bonus tip. So here is the bonus tip. When you try and write a whole entire video's worth, 3 minutes, 45-second video I have here. If you try and do that all on one text bar, by the time you're getting to the end, you're getting really slow response. Watch what happens when I try and type. Look how slow it reacts. I double click on it. I type some stuff. Waiting. There it goes. See how slowly it loaded that keyframe and loaded that text to create that keyframe? What the problem is there are too many keyframes on one layer. Because watch, if I delete a bunch of these keyframes, now when I go to type, boom, instantly responds. Really smooth like. So here's what you want to do. I notice I start getting a lag around a minute. So what I'll do is I will type all my captions on one line of one layer of text. And then when I get to a minute, I will press Control-Shift-D and split the layer. And then on the new layer, I will go ahead and click the stopwatch on my source text and click the stopwatch on opacity, and then I will click them again. And what that has done is effectively deleted all the keyframes off this new layer. So I still have all the keyframes for all the captions I just wrote on the previous layer. So this bar would be all my finished captions up to a minute. And now I have a fresh bar to start. And if you do that and you break it down, so a 4-minute video would be 1, 2, 3, 4 text layers, each one being a minute long, then you're not going to get too many keyframes on one layer and it's not going to have that lag issue. And I'm going to open this up as a quick example Definitely don't save all that damage I just did. Here is a fearless motivation video I just recently completed, and this is the captions file. If you'll notice, there are 3 layers, and the video is 3 minutes 30 seconds long. I started writing my captions up to here. Once I got to this part, I was starting to get a lot of lag, so I split the layer. On this one, I deleted all the keyframes that were there before it, and then I started a fresh new one. Then I got to here, split the layer, created a third bar, deleted all the keyframes before that, and I divided it up into these 3 layers. All right, that's the 4th and final tip, and hopefully this will help you get through it if you are having a slower computer or if you're working on a bigger, more advanced project.